Today on the Self Smarter podcast.
At my phase of life, I need to really lean into some more confidence and say, look, I've done these things. I've been successful. You can do it. So, I mean, I'm still like, okay, if it's a risk, what's the worst that can happen?
Hi, we're Danelle and Megan, the hosts of this conversation-centric podcast for leaders seeking to be better every day. Whether you choose to be a leader in the workplace, at home, or in your community, we believe the most effective leaders are equipped to not only be self-starters, but self-smarter.
Hello and welcome to Self Smarter. I'm Megan and this is my friend and co-host Danelle.
Hello, everyone.
Those of you that are watching on YouTube, you can see that two things are different today. We are in New York City still. And secondly, we have a guest here with us today, Miss Michelle Wewers.
Hello.
Yes, friend and guest.
Yes, friend and guest. We're so glad to have you back. Thank you. Thank you for sharing a glass of wine with us. We're going to have a little, we've already, to be honest, listeners, we may or may not have already had a little bit of wine.
We just had a little
Couple sips.
Yeah, a little primer.
Couple sips
Little
of like
primer.
the third glass.
The third glass. Yeah, so this is going to be a different type of episode.
Well, and I will say we were heavily encouraged by our partner, David,
Yes.
who makes all of these podcasts amazing
Yes.
with us. He's been asking us for a while
To please have a drink.
to please have some cocktails. So we chose
Today,
Michelle,
Very
to invite you
appropriate.
along.
Very, very appropriate. Okay. It's good.
Michelle,
Yes.
will you tell us a little bit about you? Not only were you our dear guest on episode 39, I just want to tee this up.
Mm-hmm.
You were also our most listened to podcast episode of 2022. So congratulations. Tiny clap.
I had to pay a lot of people to just say, listen, just please tune in just for my episode at least so I don't look like a dud. No, I'm kidding.
No,
But
it was
thank you
great.
so much. No, I had so much fun. I did.
It was
Thank
a
you for
great
having me back.
episode. How did that go for you both?
Well, I will say that was the first time, and if our listeners, if you've been listening for a while, you know that was the first time that I had led a podcast. And so I was excited about it. I was excited for Michelle to share her amazing story, which please go back and listen. It was a great episode and a lot of vulnerability, and we had a good time. I will say, though, from my seat, from minute one, I was missing you. And
That's so nice.
I mean, I'm not kidding.
For a not sweet person, that's a very sweet thing to say.
Well, gosh, now our listeners don't think I'm sweet. I just don't like that. I don't like that descriptor.
Yeah.
That being said, it was really hard, and I had so much respect and appreciation for you, my friend and co-host, for leading us through that, because it was a little bumpy at first, but then we found our groove.
Yeah.
Don't you
Yeah.
think?
I think
I think
so.
we found our groove.
After a minute, I got finished and I was like, oh, I just wanted to do over.
Well, but she
and
really
it wasn't because of you. It was just, I needed
Well,
to
you
do
did
over.
say a couple times. I feel like it would have been better if Meg was there.
Aw.
Did I say that out loud?
You did.
Oh,
yeah.
my
I don't
bad.
think you meant to. But
Where's Meg? I need Meg.
Well,
No, so it went. Obviously, it was a great episode.
Yes,
but
it was.
I missed you, and yeah, it was very evident from that point on. I think I missed the commercial. I didn't know how to end the damn thing. It was a bit bumpy.
You're like, come back next week, guys. So I don't know what to say here, but see you soon.
No, we said grateful something, and we tried to wing it.
we tried.
You did.
We
We
tried.
did our
I
best.
thought you did a beautiful
I
job.
mean-
Well, thanks.
And I hope our listeners enjoy listening us today. What we're going to do is I've conjured up just some kind of surprise questions. Why I'm doing that is I thought it would be funny. I don't want to put y'all in the quote unquote hot seat, as they like to say.
Oh, good, because I don't like hot seats.
I know. You were in the hot seat once, and
I think
was
it's great.
dying.
Bring it. Let's go.
Huh?
Oh, says
Ooh.
the 8.
Wow.
Which we'll talk about right after we run this quick commercial. Okay, what I'm about to tell you is no joke, podcast listeners. One of the things we pride ourselves on at DMA is our ability to analyze marketing performance with the best of them. To share the love in 2023, we're selling our competitive assessments for businesses 50% off our regularly published price. That's right. To find out more, connect with me at info@dma-solutions.com and find out how we can put you in a position to win smarter in 2023. Okay, welcome back. So we before the commercial, Michelle said a little 8ism. So as a reminder, she's an Enneagram 8.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, put me in the hot seat.
Bring
Right?
it.
Bring it.
Very much so.
Why do 8s like that so much?
I don't know. I don't know. It could stem from actual insecurity that we just overcompensate.
Oh,
You know?
Wow, that's
and
insightful.
it's like,
That's
I'll
a very
call your
healthy
bluff. Go ahead. What do you have? And I don't know. And now I'm kind of like,
Uh-oh.
but it's okay.
no, I'm not going to put you in that seat. This
It'll
is going to be super smooth and easy.
It'll be fine. 8s are always up for that challenge.
I know.
And then we want to win.
And then right next to you is a 9, which is me. I don't want to have anything to do with any kind of hot seat.
I know
or
you're like, I won't put
confrontation.
you in conflict.
I'm just going to run.
Well, what about
But
me?
the 7 on the other side of the 8.
7's like, ooh, fun, entertainment.
Kind of fun. Yeah, kind of. I don't know. We'll see how this goes, and maybe I'll bail. Maybe I'll stay. I don't know. Let's see.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that's cool. We're 7, 8, 9 here with you today.
Add some wine in it.
And who knows what's going to happen, y'all.
Exactly.
All right. So I thought I'd just ask a few questions, and then we can talk about it.
Okay.
Like I just, we're all obviously women. Mothers. Professionals. Leaders.
Mm-hmm.
And so for our listeners who are also parents and leaders, I just thought it would be interesting to dive into some of those questions about what do people like us struggle with, and then how are each of us individually, particularly the two of you, coping with those things. Okay. So my first question is, I think, especially in both of your roles. So Michelle, a reminder, she has multiple businesses.
Mm-hmm.
One of which you are currently working with Nexus.
Yes.
You're not only are you working there, you're a part owner.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Danelle is owner of DMA Solutions. What do you think? What are some assumptions people make about you both as leaders and potentially owners? Is there a difference? Do you see that there's a difference?
You want to go first?
You go first.
Yeah, I think the thing about ownership is it's such a behind closed doors, what owners have to deal with. And so I think the leadership piece, I've said this a number of times on this podcast and certainly in front of our team. I really enjoy being a CEO. Like once I leaned into becoming the leader that I continue to want to become today, it's the ownership part that has always given me a bit of a struggle, but where it helped me was understanding the difference between being a leader, so CEO sitting in that seat, and then being an owner. And then I could, because I used to get the two confused. So I think ownership, there's not a lot of empathy for it. I think it's the most difficult part of the journey that I'm personally have been on and continue to be on.
So would you say, do you mind if I add on to that?
Yeah, sure.
So would you say the assumption that people potentially make about owners as leaders is that the owners are not behind closed doors and that they're not struggling?
There's just a lot of pieces to ownership that it's not something that you normally would sit down and discuss with someone, the struggles.
Because they can't understand it.
No. And and some of the times I didn't understand it. Right. I mean, let me be honest. I didn't wake up one day and was like, oh, I want to be an owner of the company.
This is being
yeah. And I also remember having that, and I don't know if you have this same experience because I know you work for several other companies, is that I had the same assumptions about the owner that I worked for before, both owners that I worked for before. And it was like things that I thought were going on or things that I thought were just easy decisions. And I'm like, what in the hell? Like, why don't you just make the call? And then when I was...
The shoe was on the other foot.
Oh, when the shoe was on the other foot, I wanted to just call and was like, I'm really sorry about that attitude I had towards you because it wasn't fair and I didn't understand all of the mechanics. And as an owner, I do try to share as much as I possibly can. But there are just some things that...
People can't get. They can't understand.
And anyone can't get it. I mean, sometimes even with my own friends, being an owner... I talk about leadership can be a lonely seat, but being an owner to me is the absolute loneliest seat, in my opinion.
That. I see that.
And I'm not crying over here, but
no, I know.
It's just reality, in my opinion.
Right. No, I think to touch on that a little bit, I think I'm fortunate, I guess in a way, to be an owner a little bit later than you.
Yeah.
So the assumptions that I had about previous owners or what have you, the negative aspects of that and the negative assumptions that I had, I kind of took from that of what I don't want to be.
Yeah,
and as a leader. And I don't want anybody to have that perception of me as an owner, in that seat.
Yeah.
So, I I think taking that, and like you said too, I love transparency as an owner. I do. But there are some things that you don't necessarily want to burden employees with as an owner. There's some decisions, some things that you are going to do and the decisions that you're going to make that you don't necessarily want to burden them with. So.
Okay. Thank you both for sharing that. So I thought it would be interesting if I'm not countering what you're saying. I'm just responding as someone who is not an owner. I think I can tell you what I think people assume about owners. And I just think, this will just add to the conversation. I think they think that owners actually don't. I think they think you care about money the most, like the bottom line, when I know that is not true, because I have seen firsthand, and I know you both well, that I know that the most important thing to you is the well-being of the people that you're leading and the people that work for your company. Otherwise, what business do we have?
I think the misperception on that comes from it's not, we do care about the money,
right?
But it's from a viability of the company. I mean, and all the lives that your decisions affect in that money. So, but it's not, not from from
agreed
standpoint, right.
And
there are owners out there that absolutely they're motivated by that.
Yeah, sure.
And
they give everyone else, a bad sort of reputation because of that. And that's what you hear most about. Unfortunately, with the media, you hear about the bad stuff. We try to talk about the good stuff on this podcast. And I think this, if we're getting real, that's just one of those things that I don't know how we fix that. What I think you do well, Danelle, because I work with you, is I think you've always been very transparent. And I think even over time, you've gotten more transparent to allow yourself to become vulnerable, which I think is probably difficult as a 7 to do. But in the vulnerability has come this sort of breaking down. Like if you can visualize just like this wall sort of breaking down between owner and I'm also an employee at this business, just like you guys, So, applaud there. But thank you both for sharing that, because I know nothing like coming out of the gate with a doozy of a question.
I was about to say you could have gone a little softer, but okay.
All right. On the Enneagram note, I'm curious, how do each of your types, they're both different, how do each of your types play in your role as a leader? So a type 7 for Danelle and a type 8 for Michelle.
I think on the journey of self-awareness, I have to make an effort to not be, too aggressive, too assertive, to come across a little softer, or the approach come back a little bit softer.
That is one of the things, sorry, Danelle, that is one of the things people say about 8s is that they come across harsh. Do you think you come across that way?
I have.
Okay.
I have. And I can see a difference where I can, even stop myself at certain times and go, okay, wait, I might have been too intense in that moment. So I need to step back, and because I see the deer in the headlights look from the person across the table. And I'm like, oh, they think they're in trouble, or they're not going to speak because I'm coming at them, or they're not going to share ideas because she's about to just slam it down because it's not hers. And that's absolutely the opposite of what 8s are actually feeling. What we really want is just, oh, great, results. Let's go. You know?
Yeah. Very results driven.
Yeah.
One of the things I'd like you to talk about too is how have you dealt with, 8s aren't necessarily super comfortable with vulnerability, sharing your feelings, sharing your fear, sharing any kind of perceived weakness. How have you learned to adapt to that? I mean, was that something you were conscious of early on, or is that something you really had to work on?
No, I really had to work on it. And
well, you're a mom of 4, so I think that starts to help at some point, right?
I mean, it does, because children have no filter, and they will tell you, especially my adult daughters, brutal. Yeah. No, and an example of that just happened recently where I had to step aside. 8s tend to have bigger egos, hence the beginning of the podcast when I say bring it. And, but I, in a decision that we were making, my partners and I literally said the words, hey, it stings a little bit for my ego, but if bringing this person on, I recognize they are going to do a better job than I can. They are more knowledgeable. They are more experienced. And that is ultimately our goal, is to surround ourselves with people who are smarter, and to recognize that. And I think early on, Michelle, wouldn't have recognized that. But I literally said, kind of hurting me a minute. You know, I'm going to put my ego aside. But I mean, I recognized it like, I'm not going to get in the way of ourselves. And I think as you develop as leaders, that you can recognize those moments and get out of your own way.
That's good.
That is good.
And very self-smarter, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And it took me a while. I mean, I'm a 7, so I have a really strong 8 wing. I have both of my wings. I utilize them both, and they can also send me in a tailspin, both of my wings. And I think to answer the question, Meg, like how our Enneagrams, like how does it shape our leadership? I had to deal with vulnerability too, but I did it from a different perspective, is that I didn't want to be vulnerable because I just didn't even want to admit that there was a struggle to begin with. I just wanted to deny it. And I wanted to, just keep things fun and keep things energetic. And that's something that I had to work on. And early on when I would say I was a bit uncomfortable with the vulnerability. And when I tried to express myself, it was odd because I would have I had a lot of tears.
You did.
I
forget about that.
those days.
What are those? Do you have to drink water for
she
those
would boo-hoo
to happen?
Like it wasn't just like little tears. It was like a full-on head and hands crying.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I look back on that now, and I'm thinking, man, I think I might have been going through some stuff.
Yeah, I think you've been going through some stuff. I always wanted to like get up and hold your hand.
You did, and everybody else wanted to run for the hills, and I don't blame them.
I know.
But anyway, I think just being aware of those things, and I'm so grateful that we have tools like that can help us shape us.
For sure.
Yeah,
I can say as a 9, it's my 9ism. I don't know what else to say. Being a 9. Is kind of a nightmare to be a leader. It's like a nightmare Enneagram number to be put in a leadership or strive to be in a leadership position. You almost, for me, I've always been a leader, I think, or at least, in my roles, like in life and things that I strive for, but I don't love the hard part. It's like, I like the good part, which is like watching the thriving and the results of the hard work. The hard part is the reality is that everything's not perfect all the time and everything's not peaceful all the time. There's going to be bumps in the road where we have to have difficult discussions. And so getting over that for me was transformational as a leader. It had to be done. Right. So where Michelle, you work on softer, more vulnerable. I may be too vulnerable and too soft. I had to kind of toughen up a little bit.
Well, and I always thought that I was protecting everybody around me, regardless if that was my kids or
honestly,
my friends or my employees, that if they saw that weakness or that vulnerability, that they would think that was weakness and, oh my gosh, what's going on? We're in trouble or something's wrong with mom or, because I'm the rock. Like I'm the one that does not break down.
Right.
Like, everything's fine. Everything's great. I'm going to fix it, So.
And I'm the same. I feel the same way what you just said. I'm just having this revelation. Only if I told them the truth, it would hurt too much and they wouldn't want to love me anymore.
Oh gosh, wow.
Or whatever.
Should we get Doc on the line?
This one. Love me. Hard stop.
Well,
you do that scratch noise with the, if only David could insert that there.
The scratch, like,
no, not love me, but like want to work with me anymore. I don't know.
Oh, well, okay, listeners.
Will you give her a hug? Because I don't really do hugs. But
no, I'm fine. I don't need. I really don't. That's the damn truth.
I just want to drink her wine.
Yeah, y'all should be passing me your wine.
Y'all were doing all that, and I was just at happy hour. That's how I felt.
Oh God, I don't feel that way anymore. But certainly at one point.
I want to get off this question of feelings and vulnerability.
We're moving on.
Yeah,
I know.
Can we move on?
The 8 says, I'm done with this one.
And we're moving on.
Yeah, we're moving on. All right. I like this one. I think I know Dee's answer, so I'm curious to hear what she says. But Michelle, I don't know your answer. So what's the hardest and or best, because sometimes they're one and the same, advice or feedback you've ever been given?
That was tough to swallow.
Oh, is that going to me?
Whichever, whoever.
No.
Oh, okay. Hardest advice
to hear,
and I throughout my career, professional career, and that's what comes to mind right now, as far as getting advice from maybe older business people or people that I looked up to. It was always the same advice. So,
wow,
yeah, and it's very simple. It was literally, Michelle, you have to be more patient. And the problem with that is, even till this day, when I get that advice and I analyze the person, which I have, most of the time they're mentors, they're people who are highly successful.
And that you respect.
And I respect,
Yeah.
and they, and I'm always wanting feedback, and I'll say, what advice do you have for me? Or, why am I doing something wrong? What's going on? And they'll say, Michelle, my advice to you is you need to be more patient. Well, and I'm like, and so I also think, wait a minute, maybe that person just doesn't have the ambition that I do. Maybe it's their fault.
Interesting. That's very,
I know. And I only think that. I won't say it, but I do try to heed that advice now. But patience I still haven't mastered that. So I don't even know. So people, I guess, will continue to give me that advice because I do not have any.
Are you aware when you're being impatient?
Absolutely,
okay,
I
so
am.
You feel it.
Yes.
Like you're like, okay, this is happening. And then all those voices come back in and they're like, be patient,
and the times
Michelle.
that I know I'm being impatient, I feel like nobody else in the room is pushing. So I have to go overboard on that. And if I sit back and be patient, whatever that looks like, which I'm not sure what it looks like, then how are things going to get done?
Interesting.
So yeah, I hadn't figured that out yet. So
okay,
still continuing to work on that. I know. Yeah. I mean, it's the advice.
Well, I have a whole suitcase of patience.
right.
Well,
I know. Well, that's one of my favorite things that Michelle does is she says, well, meaning, somebody said a whoopsie, which Danelle just did.
Yeah.
Why was that a whoopsie?
Well, because I can be.
Patience is
no, I've learned.
A little bit.
I'm better than I was.
You are better.
I'm better than I was, but I still have some work to do, apparently.
And thank you for that because you've been very patient with me. I want to be the first to thank you here live on the podcast.
No, I'll never forget I can remember when he was the COO of our company, and this is when I was working early on in sales and for a produce company, and I was on fire. Like things were going really well in the organization, and I was leading this big account for the company, and I was allowing my impatience with others in the organizations because we were growing just at such a rapid pace. And I was like, we have all this opportunity, and I just didn't feel like there were people on the same bus that I was on, that I was literally driving. And I was showing up, and it got to a point where I was demanding things and I wasn't showing up in the best way. And the organization, like I knew I was a superstar in the organization. Like that wasn't in question. But for this gentleman who I, like you, Michelle, like admired, I looked up to him. He cared enough about me, this quote unquote, person who's performing at a super high level in the organization, set me down and he said, I need you to understand. He said all the nice things about me, or not nice, but more of the truth about my performance. He said, but you're missing something, and you're frustrated because people aren't, doing the things that you think need to be done in this organization to serve this significantly large client of ours. And I just want you to know that no one's going to follow you showing up this way. And I can't remember the exact words, but I was expecting something completely different out of that conversation. And when he hit me with, no one wants to be around you, no one wants to hear from you, not in maybe that way.
Yeah, but that's what you heard.
And he was, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
And it was almost, and we talk, obviously the genesis of this podcast was a 26% approval rating as a leader. From, that moment was, there was probably 5 years difference, maybe 7 years difference. But I was so heartbroken for a minute. And then I was like, oh my goodness, like he was so brave, like not brave, but he was so kind to do that. And he really did care about me to say, look, it's great that you're making this company millions of dollars and doing all this great stuff, but at the same time, you're like literally showing up as not the best version of yourself. And I feel like I know your heart, but man, you're not you're not getting the team around you. And I appreciate that. Literally changed the trajectory of my career at that moment, that he had the care for me to tell me something that was really difficult, and he knew it was going to be difficult for me to take and for me to hear. So I'm still to this day grateful. And I had another piece of advice when that company sold and I went to work for a large company, a large corporation company, I just wasn't happy at all. I had someone say to me, they listened to my complaints about the big organization, la, 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 la. And they said, if you're going to leave, go towards the light. Quit looking back and all the things that aren't right about this organization. This organization's fine for plenty of other people. But for you, go towards the light. So those two pieces of advice, like I think back and I want to be the type of leader that can deliver something difficult to someone that gives them the opportunity to either accept it or not, which is always the risk. But I felt so privileged looking back on those moments and being like, wow, people cared enough about me to basically set me down and kind of give me a little shake.
Right.
a shake of awareness. So I just think about those times.
I think, both of you coming at this question from someone that you respected is fantastic, because both of you walked away from that feeling really, it stung in the moment, but you've learned from it and it changed trajectories here. Mm-hmm. My example, and I had to really think about this because I could, I've had, you've given me feedback. I wouldn't say it was like shocking, but the one time I got shocking feedback that changed me was from an employee.
Oh.
And you weren't there that day. And I needed to have a one-on-one with this person. It was so we work in Dallas, but we used to work in a different location. So it was the other location. And it was a minute. It's been a minute.
Yeah, I was about to say.
It was a while ago. Yeah. But it was during that time that we talk about a lot on the podcast, like 2015, 2016, where we were like, wow, like we really need work.
We need some help.
We need some help. And she helped me with this, and it stung, and I was bitter about it for a long time, which I can tend to hold grudges on the inside. And I sat in chairs, like I had positioned the chairs to face one another on purpose so that we could have a conversation face to face with nothing in between us.
Okay.
And it was on the other side of your desk and the open side of your office. And she looked at me, I said, are we okay? Because I feel like there's like a boundary between us. There's something, I don't know what it is, but I'd like for you to help me figure out what that is. And she goes, well, I can tell you exactly what it is. Which I appreciated. I'm thinking, whoa, now we're getting somewhere. I thought this was going to be a lot harder. And she goes, I just don't like you. I just don't.
Did you say, well?
Yeah. And I
much.
said, I don't even know. Like, I don't even remember how, that's what nines do.
You blacked out.
You black out. The 9 goes into a full-on blackout.
Okay, because I'm not remembering this.
Yeah, you are.
Oh.
I'm about to remind you.
Okay.
Because then I called you after, and I was fine. I wasn't like, she said, it wasn't like that.
Okay.
I was like, I think we have a problem. You and I knew we had a problem, and this was my final straw.
Yep, I'm remembering.
Yep. Long story long, that person is no longer at the company.
No.
But the point was, listen, I think you and I had to have a conversation like, I'm going to stay here. I have no intention of leaving your business. I love it.
You were saying this to me.
Yes. I love the work that we're doing, and I will follow you anywhere. But I cannot do it with this person. We've tried this. We've tried this. We've tried this. I have all the data, the folders, the piles of paper, the evidence. It's time. And you were like, okay, done. So
because they weren't happy either.
They weren't happy. And that's what the conversation boiled down to is I don't even want to work here. Like, yeah, you're a problem because I don't like you. And I don't think I'm going to do this much longer. So y'all are just basically pacifying me for a job until I bounce. It was the worst. But it was inspiring to me because I thought, you know what? I think I told Danelle this, and here's the result. I don't ever want to sit across from someone else again to where it's gotten to that point.
To that point.
Right.
Yes.
Because you're going to.
Yeah, people are going to like me.
Yeah. Of course.
But I don't want their performance
Right.
to be so rotten that it's because they don't like me. Like, what had I been doing?
Yeah. Well,
right?
we weren't in a position. I mean, that's I saw us as leaders that we would allow ourselves, and that was on me mostly, to become hot. Oh yeah.
It was both.
Oh no. Well, it was a lot on me. Thank you, but it was we'd almost be hostages.
Yes, to these,
because I just couldn't imagine. I wanted to give people grace and chance, and I wanted to believe that people wanted to do better.
Yeah.
But man, we were just and then we
beating
just
our heads against the wall.
Well, and we did not have a healthy culture.
Yeah, that
and
was
when you
around
don't
that
have
time.
that, you're going to find yourselves in that position.
And then that's kind of, you did the survey, I think, shortly.
It was after that.
After that. And then, so I had been told to my face that I was not fun. And then you had been told in a survey that you were not fun. And then we decided to dive head
and
first.
we thought the whole time we were fun.
We thought we were so much fun. Right? Which I think leaders have a tendency to do. It's like blinders. La, 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 boop, boop, boop. Let's keep going. No.
Right.
We stopped everything and then we got into all kinds of leadership. And here we are. Here we are after 10 years. So yay. Moving on beyond that, that was a big question. So thank you both for sharing that. It's hard to be truthful about that, I think, and if like for our listeners, like, have you had an example like this? Like, did you realize that a monumental moment like that where someone gave you feedback that it was actually very good for you versus the worst thing you've ever done or been through? Okay. Next question. So here we are, I can't believe it, February.
February, and we're in New York, and I just want you all to know I still haven't seen a drop of snow. And yesterday, on February the whatever that was, 15th, it was 66 degrees. I know I'm showing my age by talking about the weather all the time, but it's still blowing me away. Like there's no snow.
Nothing.
Yeah,
no.
Okay.
Sorry. They are in short sleeve shirts here and shorts. Like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. We're like coated up in Dallas. It's so weird. Okay. Here we are in 2023. What are you thinking relative to stretching yourselves in 2020? I know both of you are high achievers. High achievers tend to have it could be business, could be whatever, goals or motivations for yourselves in 2023. What do those look like for both of you?
I don't know if it's the wine right now, but the fact that you just said stretching yourself, and then I was like, what? And then
like, I'm going to stretch.
I know. I'm like, God, do I have to do aerial yoga again?
Yes.
I have done it.
I believe it.
That was one of those step outside your comfort zone. That was kind of fun.
Gosh. Yeah.
Anyway, so stretching. What was the question? Because you really got me.
How are you
going to
stretch yourself?
How am I stretching myself? Like, as far as stepping outside the comfort zone, you know what? It always makes, when you step out, you're thinking about stepping outside the comfort zone. It reminds me, and don't laugh at me for reading this book.
Okay.
I didn't read all of it. And
well, you just teamed me up to laugh
I
at
just read a little bit of it. And I'm sorry, 50 Cent, if you're listening to this. And
I hope he is.
And I didn't get the title.
What
but
a leader.
It was Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter.
Yeah.
It's his biography book. Anyway, and there was
whose biography book?
50 Cent.
Okay.
The rapper?
Oh.
And a business
50
owner.
Cent.
It's 50 Cent.
50 Cent. It's 50. Don't say 50.
He owns multiple vitamin water.
No, he does have a lot of businesses.
Other businesses, yeah.
Anyway,
why would you assume that I would laugh at you for reading that book?
Because I said 50 Cent. Anyway, regardless, I remember he had put something in fear and how he had challenged his to step outside his comfort zone and that fear. And he basically said, you have two options. Mm-hmm. You can get comfortable with that fear and not move forward, or you face fear. Yeah. And that's when growth happens. That's when life happens. And he didn't put it exactly that way, but so when you said that, it reminds me, okay, what else do I want to do in 2023 about stretching myself and any fears that I that I may have? Because honestly, that's stepping outside your comfort zone. If you're going to do that, there's a fear of some sort keeping you from that.
I love that.
I think just a reflection of, what is it that I want to do, and I think some of my fear is maybe I don't have enough experience to maybe diversify into another company or start something new, or
which is something you love.
I do.
We talked a lot about this.
Yeah. And, I love that creative outlets.
It's creative for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember you did ask me on that, like, is it the making the money? And I'm like, well, I'm not in a position where it can just all be charitable work. I wish it was.
Yeah,
but,
wouldn't that be great?
still need to make some
Pay
money.
the mortgage.
Yeah, kind of got bills. But and I think that question, I'm gonna have to think a little bit harder and deeper on it. But I think at my phase of life, I need to really lean into some more confidence and say, look, I've done these things. I've been successful. You can do it. So, I mean, I'm still like, okay, if it's a risk, what's the worst that can happen?
Oh,
Let's do it.
That's good.
So,
Thank you for sharing
I
that.
don't know.
What about you, Miss Stretch?
Are you stretching over here?
Have you stretched enough?
She's stretching.
2022 was a doozy.
Yeah, it was an interesting year. So I'm
You're
taking
like,
2023 in stride. I'm in a very interesting season of life as well, and mine's I'm trying to allow myself, which is very difficult for me, but allow myself to just let things unfold, like let things happen versus just like being on a constant quest.
Can
I've been on a
say
quest
something?
since I was 9 years old.
And for our listeners, this is what Dee and I do. Like, she'll say something like that when we're talking, and I'll say, can I interrupt and say something that just occurred to me that she's probably going to hate but love at the same time?
Oh, wonderful.
Perhaps we have both talked about how we both like control.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that you are trying to not control every single moment of every single day.
Correct.
To end up somewhere that you have conjured in your mind that needs to be had or go to.
Yeah.
Woo! That is a huge accomplishment.
It's not, I am not always, like, I'm struggling.
Okay.
I'm struggling with not being able to control certain aspects of my life, even though I'm leaning into it.
Yeah.
And so I am having to be conscious of that feeling, like what's bothering you? And then when I think through something, it's like, oh, you don't have control. So like, for instance, we're on a girls' weekend, like we have another friend coming in. We're going to have, the four of us are going to have a wonderful time in the city. What do you get from me? You get a whole itinerary. And because
I love it though.
But if I were
one control freak to another, thanks.
But if I were truly leaning in, I'd just be like, whoa, we'll just do whatever we feel like.
Wow.
But
let's not go too crazy.
Yeah, don't go that far
All
with
the
my
good things.
Yes,
because I do.
But I mean,
say
I'm just saying that's
in your growth. 7s go to 5, and 5s are very diligent. So there's a difference between detail oriented and diligent versus
flighty
control over what you think is going to happen, and that is probably not going to happen, and then you're massively disappointed.
Yes,
which I think you have dealt with a lot as a leader and owner.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it.
Person on the planet, which a lot of us go through, but
yeah, control has always been something that I've possessed, and when I want to make sure that our listeners who don't know me, like, not controlling people, but I've just been a very independent,
a tight pulse,
a very independent person. I mean, I've been fairly independent since I was, like I said, 9. So to let things just kind of unravel and just let it happen is not something I'm used to, but I'm leaning in. Well, that's what's stretching me right now.
Well, good, because I can tell you, and I'm sure if Drew and Mackie were sitting here, and your friends, your friend Michelle's obviously sitting here, and other friends I'm sure would say this too, that I think I told you this the other day, and I've thought about it because I was like, oh, that didn't hurt her feelings, but I was like, this is my favorite Danelle.
Did she really think that?
This done her feelings. Yeah, I've worked.
What's your favorite Danelle?
This Danelle.
Today's Danelle.
But you said no, like
the one with version. 3 glasses of wine.
Yeah, no, the Danelle that's leaning into what she doesn't see coming. The Danelle that's sort of letting it rip. Ooh, sorry, listeners. I had a hair awry and Danelle grabbed it. It distracted me.
She put it back in the same.
She put it back in the same wrong spot. Thanks.
Okay.
So this is your punishment for bringing this up. Thanks. Yeah. No. This version of she's always been in there. This Danelle has always been in there, but I think a lot of people in the people that we know in our business and our industry know a Danelle. I'm telling those of you that know Danelle, there's a new one on the horizon. And she is
just because I'm
the
50?
same old. No, I think people think, she's fun. She's fun. No, everybody knows that. And I'm not suggesting you're not fun. But there's just a different vibe about you, man. It's like a cooler energy. Mm-hmm. And like toned down a little bit and just cool.
Oh, well, good to know.
I know. Just stay the same, D. You're doing so well.
Oh, wow, thanks.
I'm so proud of you.
Thanks.
So proud.
I wasn't listening the other day when you told me that this was
You weren't?
that I was your favorite.
You said it is? Thank you.
Oh, okay.
This is the cool Danelle. So I only know the cool Danelle.
Oh, wow.
Cool. I know.
So
that's right.
You must have been a real asshole.
No,
I'm just kidding.
I mean, sometimes we can all be.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we like to call it pill.
No, you said
today, rascal. You said I can be a rascal, and I'm
we did a whole episode on things that people say.
Cute.
Yeah, like old timey things people say. I'm like little rascals.
Like I was thinking, cute
the black and white show.
You little rascal. No, if that's
Boy, this is one hell of a rabbit hole. We found ourselves.
Welcome to the cocktails. I mean,
let's get off cool Danelle.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, well, all right. We're moving on.
But I do appreciate the compliment. It's
an observation.
And I will say that this has come with a lot of introspection and therapy.
Yes.
So, and underlying therapy. And yeah, let's just give a shout out to Doc.
Yeah.
I wanted to show up different in this phase of my life. And not that I had a lot of complaints about previous, but there's just a lot that happens, and I was very honest and open about it on episode, I don't know, what was that, 34 or something, where I talked about what I've been through. And because I'm on the other side of some of those challenges, I promised myself that I would work on the things that I knew got me there. And control was one of those things, and to allow myself the opportunity to find my way away from that particular aspect of myself that was really causing a lot of internal harm. That's a commitment that I made to myself. And so again, I couldn't see that without looking at myself in a different way, but then obviously the therapy has helped.
I just want to say, I'm sure Michelle sees this too, but trailblazing looks different. I used to think trailblazing looked like people we admired, in our circle. We talked about Frida Kaplan. She brought the Kiwi in from New Zealand back in the 50s or 60s. And that was a monumental
in our industry. Yeah.
Right. She won Produce Man of the Year, and she's a woman. Terrible. But I mean, that's how it was, right?
Exactly.
Trailblazers look different. What you're doing is you're doing a sort of passive, pacifist way of trailblazing, because what you're showing me, and I think what you're showing Michelle and other women and people, is that you are going to go through changes in life, people, and it can be done gracefully. That's the end game. And while I'm getting there and sorting it out, it may look a little ungraceful. And guess what? It's like baby giraffe. Okay.
Yeah, baby giraffe.
It's okay.
Yes.
So anyway, thank you for that. Stretching relative to myself, what am I going to do? I'm quite frankly trying to lean into not being the one that fixes everything, which is really hard for me. Extremely difficult. You talked about it earlier, Michelle.
Oh yeah, that's a hard one.
Ooh, I wanna fix everything.
Yeah,
and it's funny because obviously we're still getting to know Michelle, but it's I can see that in both of you, and the way you do it is almost very similar.
Yeah.
It's unprompted sometimes. You just it's literally a reflex.
I don't even know what else to do.
Yeah.
And I think that's for Michelle, it plays into not having the patience to wait for someone else to solve the thing.
I'll just do it.
You just do it. It's just
easier
if you do it.
It needs to be done.
It needs to be done.
I need to fix it. I need to make everything okay.
You're right.
How much money would you and I have if we had $1 for every time that we said that to ourselves?
I know.
Right.
I know. Let's just make it okay. Let's just make everything okay.
I'll just do it. Just take me 5 minutes. I'll do it. An hour later.
And what ends up happening, and I've definitely.
So does that mean I'm leaning into my 9 when that happens?
Yes, you are.
Right.
You are for sure. And I will say too that I think that I have that part of me as well. And what helped me to overcome some of that. I wouldn't suggest that I'm completely free of that reaction, but it's realizing I'm holding other people back when I don't allow them the opportunity to come up with the solution, solve it, do it their way, and just be the guide and the supporter. That's what changed my mindset. And honestly, this kind of all blends together, but the control piece too is I sometimes controlled things because I didn't want people to feel like there was a failure and when we started to talk about failure as being something we expect at our company, things started to change for our organization too. But that had to come from me. And I had to say it over and over and over again, and I had to practice it. So it's just, it's interesting to know that we're all wired differently, the three of us, and yet we have these commonalities around. And what it is it's because we've chosen to be leaders. We've chosen to be self-smarter leaders. So therefore, these struggles can be similar, which is why we started this podcast, so that we don't feel so lonely in this space. Because I know for me, I have amazing friends, but not friends that maybe I could share this type of stuff with. And I think obviously that's a catalyst of why our friendship from the three of us has blossomed so quickly, is because you feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't know her that well, but she's saying something that I've been dealing with for 20 years. So that bond just happens. And that's what we want for this podcast. We want to talk about things so that when people listen, male, female, doesn't matter, that you're like, oh wow, I've carried that burden before and I am not alone. And oh, they've already walked through that fire. Maybe I can pick up a few things to where I'm just walking over a coal and not a damn blaze. So
losing a leg
along the way. Exactly.
All right.
So I don't know why I went off on that rant, but
well, it's welcomed. Thank you. I know this last question's getting in the way of us leaving and having some food potentially, or another cocktail.
Exactly. I have some fun things planned for us this afternoon.
But before we go, I did want to touch on this fun fact. We have to talk about food because so just for those of you listening, y'all probably have picked up on this through the episodes, but Danelle and I, she especially loves to talk about wine and really I want to say fine foods. That's how I want to position it.
Just say fancy.
Fancy. I do too, but I'm not I'll also eat a cheeseburger. That's not something.
Food is art to me.
Yeah, it is, and it is. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Enter Michelle into our group dynamic, who, God bless you, you're a veg. You love the veggies,
Michelle, and then
God bless you.
Because I know what that means.
Well, words that we use a lot together are meat trickery. What else? Does that have?
Yeah, I mean, and she says,
I don't like the crunchy things. No, you said that at dinner last night.
There's a fancy word, and she'll have to use. You guys, both of you, use the fancy words where I'm like, what is that really?
Like charcuterie.
Or that crudité.
Crudité. Yeah, crudité. Yeah, crudité was one. And we were like, that's like a veggie platter.
Then call it
this is one of our arguments.
I'm not eating vegetables out of plastic. And I'm like,
no,
what?
Because then there's plastic.
So there's a difference in a veggie tray and
no. A crudité, a crudité is...
Oh my gosh, I can't believe
we're doing this.
We're doing
anyway, but y'all are hearing it. Y'all are hearing the food.
And then what is the duck fat? Just call
confit. It or no, that's the liver. You're talking about the foie gras.
Yeah.
We were talking about confit last night.
I do want to pay her a compliment. Food is not your
it's
art
not our
form.
thing.
It's not for me. It's beyond a hobby. It is.
Yes, definitely.
It's a lifestyle.
It's a lifestyle for me.
Yeah.
It is to some degree for you.
Yes.
And obviously with me being in New York, it's heightened.
How can it not be?
Extremely heightened, right? Well, for you, but what I will say is that for the times we've eaten meals, together as a group, is that you'll try anything.
Yes.
So I got to give you that.
I will. And some of that, whatever you fed me yesterday. I mean,
and David was there with us.
I tried it 10 times and I still said, nope, it tastes like propane. And I tried
what? And then I was like, when are you eating
propane? Who's feeding you that?
It tasted
And can you eat a gas? I don't know.
It tasted like the smell of propane. I tried to like it. I did. I ate it over and over, and you're like, well, you don't have to keep eating it, but I wanted to make sure.
Set it
Was
aside.
it the sushi that tasted like propane?
Oh gosh, no! It was at happy hour. It was
Oh.
the crab dip.
Oh,
Some
good
kind of
crab dip.
And I like
That I was
crab.
mowing down. I was like, give it to me if you're not going to eat it.
It smelled like, it tasted like the smell of propane. But anyway.
That's right. That's right.
Anyway.
Anyway, I will say it's fun to
I do try it.
introduce, and that's one of the parts of our friendship that I love is that you're so game to try anything. And what I love to do is share like food and wine with people. So last night was fun. The four of us, including David, we went to this incredible experience, this food experience.
Which
and
didn't
it was just
look
fun.
like it was going to be, by
No.
the way.
Okay,
Like when
yeah,
we got there,
when I take you to a mall to
I
eat,
know.
I know that shocked you. 'Cause
I was
I
like,
can be a bit
David,
snobby
now
a little bit.
listen.
Yeah,
like,
just a
this
tiny bit.
must be good.
I think it's always funny though to watch you two because it'll come out and it's beautiful and you're like, oh, this presentation, and y'all start talking in your fancy words. And then last night, and I don't know that I said it, but David's over there. He's kind of, him and I are maybe on a little bit more on the same page. But I'm eating this, and then I was like, some of the crunchy stuff on the top of one of those it literally was tasting like chopped up, like crunched up Cheerios.
And it was fried quinoa.
on the top of it. And I wanted to say, hey, this is like put Cheerios on the top of this.
I wish you would have, because that would have made my night. That would have been.
For our listeners, it was crunchy fried quinoa.
Quinoa.
Yeah.
But anyway, it tastes like Cheerios. And I was like,
that's fair.
I was like picking them off because that ruined my experience
Oh.
when they put that Cheerios on the top of
Boo.
that. I know.
Did you like the salmon?
I really did like all of it. But again, I did.
Okay, good.
I did. I loved all of it.
You
But
passed, you passed muster on that.
I love sushi though.
That was fine. That was fine food, man.
That was good.
It was
you.
so good. And yeah, besides the meat trickery
In
she
fact,
tries
that
to
sounds
pull,
delicious.
I eat anything. But when she tries to pull this, I'm not a big meat eater, and she just keeps trying to.
She's like,
present
but
it.
what about this type of
Well,
meat?
it's a challenge.
I know.
Because once
She
she's like,
sneaks it in.
What
and
about
I'm like,
this?
that is not right.
That's so
Okay.
funny.
Noted. Now I need to make some changes
And we
to
have
our
a friend
reservation.
coming
I know.
who
Our
also
good friend,
doesn't like
Melissa.
meat.
She does not. And I was like,
She likes soup.
soup.
She's like, I'm like, what do you,
Melissa?
what do you,
Oh,
Danelle's
goodness.
like, what do you want? I'll take you anywhere you want to go in New York City. She's like, anywhere that has soup. We're like, wow, it's going to be a crazy weekend. Eating all the soup.
I'll eat all the soup. All right.
Anyway, let's get this girls' weekend party started. Thank you
Let's
so
do
much,
it.
Michelle, for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And
I-
thank you both for being so vulnerable and honest. I admire you both very
Oh,
much.
thank you.
Thank
And
you.
we all do. Okay, there's one thing standing in between us and kicking off our girls' weekend.
Oh, it's time.
And that's a music moment.
Oh,
Oh.
okay. Almost forgot.
Okay, so tonight, what's happening, Danelle? What have you planned? A music
Well,
something?
Yes, I'm so excited. We're going to go we're gonna have some cocktails and we're gonna have a nice dinner. Hopefully, soup will be on the menu.
And meats.
for meats, lots of meat trickery for our friends that are into food. But I've rented out a karaoke room, a private karaoke room, and have invited Mackie and some of her friends from
Her
NYU,
performing friends.
her performing friends, and we're just gonna have a ball in Koreatown in New York.
Are you going to sing? What are you going to sing, Michelle? Do you know? Have you thought about it? I've got a list.
I mean, it depends on how many cocktails we have.
Those won't be in short supply.
Yeah, well, if I have one of those.
What? Let's
You
do
were
it.
bartending last night and it was not pretty.
I was a great
No,
bartender.
they were
It wasn't pretty. The result wasn't pretty.
Well,
Well, that's.
See, there she goes. Well, yeah, Michelle makes
But-
a mean Manhattan.
But she hasn't. I mean, she can't be a true part of our friend group until she experiences
Does this.
karaoke.
That's
This
true.
is like a rite of passage.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And Melissa will be involved as well.
Yes, exactly. So we're kind of
Are
initiating.
you ready?
them.
Let's talk
I
about
could
Melissa
probably
a little
rap
bit.
something.
Ooh.
Wow.
Gosh, you busted that out. I'm happy about
But
that.
you think our friendship's going to be somehow altered
It
when
totally
she sees
will.
me perform?
Yes.
No. In what way, Danelle, are you concerned about? Why would you be
Absolutely.
concerned? You're a great performer. What would you be worried about?
Bless her heart.
A lot. Yeah, that's exactly what you'll be saying. But thank goodness my daughter is going to be there to
Yeah.
pick up the slack.
You're a great performer. It's you know what it is. It's what do you call it? The music ear.
tone deaf.
Tone. That's right.
Well, Mackie argues that I'm not tone
Like,
deaf,
I'm up here.
but maybe that's because I'm the
up
mom.
here. Can you come up here with me? We've played that exercise before.
We have, yeah.
And she just, sometimes she gets there, sometimes she doesn't.
Anyway, I'm excited, and I can't wait to experience this.
I'm
And
excited too.
Food, music, it's my dream night.
I hope I don't embarrass you.
In what way?
I don't know.
Like, well, hopefully we've already knocked all that out in this
Are we
last
walking?
hour.
I'll be the designated walker.
Are we walking? Currently, it is raining in New York. I mean, I don't care. Let's walk.
I don't think that's rain. That's smog.
Oh my gosh.
Well, the streets are wet.
Nope, it's rain.
Yep.
You're
okay.
right.
Okay.
All right. Shall we get our weekend started
Yes,
now?
let's go.
We shall.
Okay.
Clearly, two of us are anxious to do that.
Thank you both so much. I admire you both. Thank you for being such wonderful friends.
Thanks, Meg.
All right,
Yeah.
thanks for
All
coming,
right,
Michelle.
I'm going to say cheers. And to all of you listening, we send you into the week with grateful hearts.
Bye, everyone. As always, you can connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at Self Smarter Podcasts. You can also leave a rating or review if you enjoyed what you heard today. Not only does this mean so much to us, but it also helps other leaders and future leaders find our community. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us in becoming self-smarter. This podcast is produced by Snacks Media, and music is from a free platform. Well, that is until Brandy Carlisle reaches out to us to write the original score for our podcast. Friends, have a great rest of your day.